The Biggest Story Bible Storybook. Chapter 31. Elijah proves a point. 1 Kings 18. Of all the rotten rulers in Israel, Ahab and Jezebel may have been the worst. They did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, serving false gods like Asherah and Baal. Ahab did more to provoke God's wrath than all the other kings before him. So God raised up the prophet Elijah to prove a point. For 3 years it did not rain in Israel. That may sound like perfect weather for a picnic, but without rain the people could not grow their crops, and without any crops in the fields, the people had no food on the table or for a picnic. They were hungry. And Ahab was angry at Elijah, because Elijah was God's messenger and had predicted the drought. When Ahab saw Elijah after 3 years, Ahab called him a troubler of Israel. It's sadly true. People who don't like God usually don't like what God has to say through his messengers. But Elijah was not the real troublemaker. That was Ahab and his household. They troubled Israel by disobeying the commands of the Lord. So Elijah told Ahab to send the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asherah to meet him at the Mount Carmel. Elijah had a plan. Actually, God had a plan, and it was a good one. The day came for the great showdown on Mount Carmel. Hundreds of prophets from the false gods versus one prophet from the true God. Hardly a fair fight. Elijah had the advantage. How long will you go limping between two different opinions? Elijah asked. If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him. If the people didn't know who the real God was, they were about to see it for themselves. Elijah set up a test. The prophets of Baal prepared a sacrifice with their gods and called down fire from heaven. They screamed at the sky for hours, and nothing happened. Elijah teased them, saying, "Maybe your God is out on a trip. Maybe he fell asleep. Maybe he's using the bathroom." But the prophets of Baal kept screaming, and nothing happened all day. There was no God to hear their voice. Then Elijah prepared an offering for the Lord. He even covered the altar with water to make things harder. But nothing is hard for the real God. He sent down fire from heaven as soon as Elijah called his name. The people said over and over, "The Lord, He is God." And He was, and He still is. Elijah was a great prophet of the Lord, so great that he didn't even die. Years later, God brought Elijah to heaven in a whirlwind with chariots of fire. Pretty cool. Even cooler the next time Elijah would show up on a mountain. It would be with Moses as they pointed to an even better prophet, Jesus, God's own son. Prayer. God in heaven, you're the only God, and we worship you alone. Amen. 생각해보기. 1. 우상 숭배는 나쁜 거예요. 아합과 이세벨은 하나님 대신 거짓 신인 아세라와 바알을 섬겼어요. 하나님은 우리가 오직 하나님 말을 섬기기를 원하세요. 2. 하나님은 진짜 하나님이에요. 엘리야가 바알의 선지자들과 대결했을 때 바알은 아무런 응답을 하지 못했지만 하나님은 엘리야의 기도에 바로 응답하셨어요. 이로 인해 사람들은 하나님이 진짜 하나님이라는 것을 알게 되었어요. 3. 하나님께서는 우리의 믿음을 보세요. 엘리야는 제단을 물로 덮어 더 어렵게 만들었지만 하나님께서는 여전히 그의 기도를 들어주셨어요. 우리는 하나님을 믿고 의지해야 해요. 4. 하나님을 두려워해야 해요. 아합과 이세벨은 하나님을 무시하고 악한 일을 했어요. 하지만 하나님께서는 그들의 악행을 보시고 벌을 내리셨어요. 우리는 하나님을 두려워하고 그의 말씀에 순종해야 해요. 5. 하나님은 위대한 선지자를 보내셨어요. 엘리야는 위대한 선지자였지만 그는 하나님의 아들 예수님을 가리키는 역할을 했어요. 예수님은 우리를 구원하기 위해 오신 더 큰 선지자예요. 6. 기도는 강력해요. 엘리야는 하나님께 기도하여 하늘에서 불을 내려받았어요. 우리도 하나님께 기도할 때 하나님께서 우리의 기도를 들어주신다는 것을 믿어야 해요. 7. 하나님만을 예배해야 해요. 사람들은 여호와 그가 하나님이시다 라고 말했어요. 우리는 오직 하나님만을 예배하고 다른 신들을 섬기지 않아야 해요. 8. 하나님께서는 그의 선지자를 특별하게 대우하세요. 엘리야는 죽음을 보지 않고 하늘로 올라갔어요. 하나님께서는 그의 충실한 선지자들을 특별하게 대우하신다는 것을 보여줘요. 생각해보기 끝!